Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Art of Slowing Down podcast. It's your host here, Annalena, and I have again a beautiful guest with me. Her name is Sonja Thompkins, and I am so happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Annalena. This has been such a long time coming. I'm so energized to be here talking with you and your audience today. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm so happy you reached out. And I'm going to just share your bio quickly, and then we're going to take it away, okay? All right, so
Sure.
Sonja is an intuitive life and business coach that supports multi-passionate individuals to fulfill their responsibilities, relationships, and well-being goals with harmony instead of hustle. Very aligned with the podcast. I love it. And after 25 years as an entrepreneur across multiple industries, she began an intentional journey of self-discovery and mastery, which led to sharing her experiences and expertise as a professional coach, transformation facilitator, and speaker. I love it.
Yeah.
So welcome again. Mm.
Thank you, man. When someone else reads it back to you, you're like, oh, I did all
Yeah,
that. You're
yeah,
just like,
I
oh,
know,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I have.
Yeah, we kind of realize how we don't see ourselves at all, right? And we're like, well, nothing special. I haven't accomplished anything in my life until somebody is like, oh, wow.
Just when I hear or if I think about, oh, how long have I been doing this, or how long have I been an entrepreneur, or what have you? And I'm like, oh my God, it's been 25 years. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
okay.
huge.
Yeah, instantly. Yeah, like, oh,
Mhm.
I know
Yeah.
what I'm doing here.
So let me ask you, what got you into the entrepreneurial world? You were not interested into the corporate world, or how did that come about?
You know, I guess I knew. I didn't know that I knew, but I guess I knew
Mm.
all along that that's what I was going to dive into. Just ancestral. I have grandparents who had businesses, some that I knew, some that I didn't know. I have aunts. My parents both sort of like dabbled more what they would say like had like hustles, gigs on the side. So it was just natural growing up. If someone has a business, that's natural.
Mm.
I When I was a little kid, 3, 4, 5 years old, I didn't watch cartoons. I didn't like to play a lot of games that most kids played. I had two games that I enjoyed: Beauty Shop and Store. That's what I called them: Beauty Shop and Store. So at Beauty Shop, I got to play in people's hair. I would comb and brush my brother's hair, my mom's hair, my dog's hair, anything that had hair. I'd be doing their hair. And then Store was this made up game that I had where I was the cashier. I would check people out. It was something about the sounds of the beep I just was always just really attracted to that. And lo and behold, my very first business was a salon and day spa that I opened up when I was 24. And I had been licensed as a cosmetologist since I was 18. And then that business sort of evolved into a retail shelf within that salon, and that grew into 3 brick and mortar boutiques. And
Oh,
so I literally started off beauty shop and store,
I
and
love it.
that's what I did.
That's so fascinating. Wonderful. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with all that, I mean, 25 years being an entrepreneur, that's very impressive. And like you say, right, this is something you didn't know any better, actually, right? Growing up, your family was entrepreneurs. And because many people don't have the courage to just start their business like me, I didn't know any of like the entrepreneurial world. And I think being in America helped me a lot because I grew up in Germany, and because
Hmm.
it's much more encouragement, I feel, here to actually start your own business. So I'm actually very grateful for
Mm.
that. But I love that you followed the passion that you already had as a child, Because in human
Yeah.
design, as you know, we always talk about do what lights you up, do what brings you joy. And so you just did the thing. I love beauty, aesthetics. I love playing with people's hair. I think that's just so wonderful.
And what's interesting is, I mean, so my father was construction. He worked for the Department of Transportation in Missouri, where I grew up.
Mhm.
And so like, building highways, roadways, like that was his job. So very like labor intensive, blue collar. My mom was corporate. I mean, my mom had a string of corporate jobs. My mother is a Sagittarius sun. She's a manifesting generator. It's so interesting now to know all the things that I know and to look and see like how things, you know, the environment that I grew up in. My mom was the type, she'd have wonderful corporate jobs and she would just, if it went sideways, she'd leave. And 2 days later, she'd have another great corporate job. But they both, like I said earlier, they both always had sort of like these side hustles. My mom was selling like really beautiful, sort of high-end attaches. I don't know if you like remember when briefcases and attaches were really big in the 80s and stuff, you know. And my dad would haul stuff for people in his pickup truck. And so they had traditional jobs, you know, they had jobs where they were employees, but they did have those sort of side hustles and things that they did. And so I got to see a really good, well-rounded mix of all types of business and work ethic and all of that. And so, yeah, the greatest thing though is that my parents were encouraging, you know, with what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I knew, but I didn't, like I said, I knew, but I wasn't like, I'm not sure how much I believed, you know, that I'd be an entrepreneur my whole life. And I did have jobs along the way, but my jobs literally were always to fund my business. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually something I find so important when people have the desire to be an entrepreneur, right? It's not always like just jump into it. It's also not a bad thing sometimes to do something on the side, because if that's your dream, you know, it may take some time and it's not going to go just like that in one day. I mean, sometimes it does, but if you have a job, sometimes it's also a blessing because that can actually help you dive into your business being much more relaxed because you don't have the pressure of making money. I mean, at least in my case, anytime I have pressure to make money, it's not a great energy and feeling at all.
Absolutely. So one thing that I've learned, my rising is in Taurus, and that stability is so important to me. And I started sort of piecing together and understanding like, oh, when I have a part-time job, when I have a job that takes care of sort of like my main necessities. And again, I started when I was 18. So I was alone. It was me, you know, that was, you know, I could eat ramen noodles every day if that's what I wanted to do. But having that allowed me to, like you said, make moves, you know, consistent moves in my business where when I would go, and even still now, if it's all like I have to make a certain amount of money and there's all that pressure, I'm no good in terms of attracting and, you know, really doing what I'm here to do. So
yeah, because of course, no, it puts us in kind of like a needy energy. So it's the same for me. So let's talk about Multi-Passionate. That's who you work with, and you're also into human design, right? You have been following me, I think, for a while. So thank you for all your love and support with that. And I had a peek at your chart already. So you're 2 for manifesting generator in the tropical human design. And I did ask you, because you haven't really looked into the cosmic or true sidereal human design yet. And just to explain to you, it's based on a different type of astrology, which is just slightly shifted in the sky, which is representing what was really happening in the sky, if you look at the sky. And you are also manifesting generator there. So you are like inside out manifesting generator. And I would love to talk about that a little bit more because I think the multi-passion is something that is just very typical for manifesting generators. I think all of us can be multi-passionate, but it's a very specific trait of ManiGens. And I want to have a conversation because you were also mentioning that, you know, you also deeply resonate with needing more rest and more sleep and not so much initiating, but more like a projector with the invitation. So tell me a little bit more about your experience with it and maybe also some questions you have.
Yeah, so it's so interesting as I started learning about human design and really practicing it, experimenting with it and practicing. And like most people, when we first come into human design, I was like, oh my God. And I had been an astrology student for decades, astrology, numerology, the chakra Hindu. So when I came across human design, I was like, oh, I love how this is sort of all encompassing. And I resonated with a lot of the manifesting generator pieces. But as I started practicing, I noticed I'm like, yeah, but I have a lot of, I feel like I have a lot of projector type energies or experiences, being that when I'm excited about something, when I'm lit up, when I am responding positively to something after riding my emotional wave, yeah, I can obsess over it. I can get deep into it. I can go, but I always need to retreat. And I from my understanding, that 2 in my 2-4 profile, that's hermit. So that's very much been a thing for me my whole life. I've always taken naps. I've always enjoyed being around people, but I tease and say for every hour that I'm around someone, I need 2 hours to myself. And I have the ability, and I'm very comfortable, like, this is what I want. I'm going to go after it. That kind of energy. Like when I reached out to you, I did everything that anyone who talks about pitching a podcast says not to do. But the difference is this time I let it breathe. I had the idea like a year ago, but I let it breathe before I acted on it. Yeah. But there's something about, I've noticed when I do take the initiative a lot of times, even if people respond positively to it, it seems to kind of fizzle out for some reason, whether that's friendships, business type collaborations. And so then I started noticing when I just kind of let things breathe and give it time, it seems to work better. And I associated that more with like projector type energy experiences. And I'm just like, wow, I find that interesting. I do have some projector gates, but yeah, that was always interesting to me. It's like, how do I reconcile those two?
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk about this because you're talking to the right girl. Human design sometimes boxes us in, or it puts all of humans into 5 categories, which in itself, think about it, it's hard, right? And I don't know if you know this, but in the very beginning, there were no types in human design.
No,
that came later on. Yeah, that's most people don't know this, but I didn't know this actually in the beginning until I learned more and did some more research, because they noticed there are some commonalities in the charts, and then they created the types, and I don't know all the details and logistics of that. But one of my fears is also that part of it was also to make it more easier to commercialize in some way, right? Just like we have in lots of personality kind of tests, right? We have these different types, or I don't know if you know the money archetypes. There is the accumulator, there's the maverick, there's the alchemist, and these things. And
the nectar.
Like I may be an accumulator, but 2% below that, like with 28%, I'm an accumulator. With a 27%, I'm a maverick or alchemist. So we say we are the one type, but we are made up of everything at the end of the day. So that's how I have also always approached human design, because the more I learned it myself from my own experience and working with so many clients, right, I realized that there is so much overlap. And the most common theme I have noticed is that everybody tells me, well, I feel like a projector. I feel like a projector. If you're a ManiGen, like almost all of the types. Now, one of the reasons, and you mentioned it already, is that most gates and channels in the human design chart are projected, literally the vast majority. And you can be a ManiGen, you can be a generator, and have a lot of projected energies. For example, in my chart, like especially my cosmic true sidereal chart, I'm a generator, and I have tons of projected energies in there. There's more projected energy in my chart than generated energy, right? So everything that you're saying is makes total sense. And also, I think for you and I, so the 2-4 profile, for me, the 2-4 profile is a projector profile, because it's especially that energy of like retreating, leaning back, I need my alone time, and then let yourself be called out, you know, with that 4-line energy. So
Yeah.
the other thing is that ManiGens are not here to initiate. That's also a misconception. Or ManiGens and generators are not here to work, and hustle all the time. We do not have unlimited energy, right? So with the projector, the wait for invitation and the way to respond is actually very, very similar. It's very similar. I almost want everybody to think about that's technically the same. Now, because I often have projectors reach out to me and they ask me something, or they want to communicate with me, and then they tell me like, I'm sorry, I wasn't invited, but I'm like, you don't have to ask for an invitation to talk to me. Like, the invitation is for the bigger things in life. And just like what you're describing with like business partnerships and relationships, anything where there goes more time, energy, and resources into things, right? We definitely don't want to force things. We definitely don't want to jump into those kind of things because we had the idea, you know?
Yeah.
The way that I like to explain it for the generators and the manifesting generators is like, well, you have all these ideas, write them down. Write them on your Sonja's email, or not emails, like ideas list. If that's in your email or on your notebook, anywhere. And then you lean back and you communicate, use your voice and tell the universe, hey, I'm ready. I have all these ideas. Can you show me what is mine to pursue? Because as you know, we have so many ideas. We probably can't do them all, or we're going to, especially as ManiGens, we have a tendency, right, to be like all over the place. You know, where we start all these things and we don't finish anything. And while we're also not designed to finish everything, certain things do need to be completed, right? Because otherwise we have this draining energy there that blocks us from allowing something new into our life. And again, I'm talking right now for the manifesting generator, but everyone listening right now, no matter what your type is, this can apply to you as well. So
yeah,
it's also not that only manifesting generators are multi-passionate. That's kind of what we learn through this archetype, and the ManiGens are really here to shine this into the world, just like the sun in astrology. It's the yang energy we're here to put out into the world so other people can learn this. Because you may be another type, you may be a generator, and if you take it to the extreme, you may be, well, because I'm a generator, I have to finish everything and I have to do only one thing my entire life. And maybe not so much. Maybe there's also some things you're not supposed to finish and you know when to let go of. So just to kind of put it into the context that the way I like to talk now about the type is more like archetypes, where we can be a blend of everything. And you may have a main resonance to one of the types. Plus, as we humans evolve, right, we mature, we become older, we become wiser. And now for you, for example, you also in your business work a lot with like slowing down and more connecting to the intuitive side. We connect this right away to more like a reflector or projector energy, right? But the ManiGens, the generators, even the manifestors, we all benefit from slowing down, from doing less, from taking a nap here and there, right? So it's not like mutually exclusive.
Yeah, and for me, that's sort of like my magic, if you will, is I've always been able to see like, okay, all these compartmentalized things or perspectives or concepts, and see how they actually really intertwine, overlap, and understanding like, oh, it's not about it's always going to be this or it's always going to be this. There's going to be seasons.
Yeah.
There's seasons of go, 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 go. There's seasons of rest, reprieve. There's seasons of reflection, gaining clarity, you know, and I think to your point, it's not sometimes we can either we feel like we've been put in a box, or sometimes we put ourselves in a box
Mhm.
based on, modalities and teachings like human design or astrology. Oh, my midhaven is such and such, so that means, and it's like, well, yeah, but, or yes, and,
Mhm.
right? It's
Exactly.
there's so much and in everything in the world and in our experiences. And I agree wholeheartedly with your point where you were saying, like, as a manifesting generator, maybe it's more about, this is what you're here to do. I'm sorry, the profile, like, here's what you're here to do and how you're going to shine it out so that others can be exposed to it, or
Mhm.
learn from it. But it doesn't mean like you are constrained
Yeah,
to that.
exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
one thing that just came to me that I think you may appreciate a lot, and we learn this again from the manifesting generator, but I also find, again, this may apply to all types. So the manifesting generator, when we talk about strategy and authority, is this, like we just talked, the way to respond, right? Where you let things come to you after you had the idea, or you didn't even have the idea, and just life brings you something and your body responds with a yes. And in your case, you have emotional authority, right? So you ride out the wave. Basically, that means, and this is also, funnily enough, also applies for people to an undefined solar plexus, because I can amplify people's emotions. So we never ever want to make a big decision where we feel emotionally high or low, because I may just buy into somebody else's excitement, which is not mine. So we all want to make a decision from an emotionally clear space. That I have learned. I have an undefined solar plexus in both of my charts, from the emotional
Okay.
authority, from the solar plexus, how human design talks about it. So then, as a manifesting generator, so let's say you responded to something, right? Let's say the response was to start a business partnership with somebody. Now, it's a yes, but the manifesting generator has something called envisioning phase, which is like, okay, now you responded, let's try it out. Let's get into the sandbox and have some fun and see how it actually feels. So it's almost like a trial and a membership, right? In a gym or something like that, where you're like, well, I really love this gym. I want to be there, but I need to like feel it out, test it out, or dip my toes into the water for like a whole month to actually see how this feels in my body. And this envisioning phase for manifesting generators, and again, I think many other ones can
Yeah.
relate to it as well, is giving you permission not to fully commit. And all you have to do is communicate that. I really feel like this is the right thing for me, but since it's such a big commitment, let's try it out for a month and actually see how this works. I'm going to tell you, I have learned through very like trial and error myself.
I love how you are describing this, because I have read that in in human design, the envisioning phase for
Mhm.
ManiGens, and I took that literal. And I've talked about this a lot in my own circles, where visualizing, whether it's in meditation or
Mhm.
literally to close my eyes and try to visualize, is very challenging for me. And I've
Yeah.
read about the arrows and stuff. It's challenging because sometimes it's challenging because what I am trying to envision is really sort of out of the realm of what my mind can conceptualize, even though my soul is saying this is where we're going. So my mind is not necessarily on board yet. That's
Mhm.
difficult to visualize, or and so then I get scared. And then like, to literally try to close my eyes and visualize certain things, it'll just shut down. So
Mhm.
I love how you are saying the envisioning is just allowing yourself to sort of dip your toe
Yeah.
in a thing,
Yeah. It's more,
not literally trying to visualize.
yeah. No, actually, now that you're saying it, I think I need to rename it, because that's how I learned it the proper way. But it should be more called experimenting phase, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And just yesterday, I was contacted by someone who I attracted, again, been in a circle for years. And finally, it's like, oh, the timing is great. And we were both like, ooh, like, this just feels great.
Mm.
And then and she was like, hey, let's see about doing something this week. And I said, it's a yes for me, but I'm going to need, let's plan something out for about 3 weeks out because I need to let some things breathe. However, if I come to something sooner, if the space opens up sooner, is it okay if I reach out to you and then we can talk about maybe doing something sooner? And she was absolutely on board. And for me, that's a lot of growth because having that energy of like, I can make stuff happen. Like I say it all the time. I am an expert at making shit happen.
Yeah.
However, a lot of the things that I make happen, it usually turns out to be shit for real because I have pushed it and forced it versus just been clear that it's a yes and then letting it being a little less controlling and letting it
thank you for sharing that, because that's exactly because we can get really excited in the moment, especially when two people come together like, oh my God, let's do it, it's gonna be amazing, right? And that's why what you just shared is brilliant, because you may feel in a week like, this is not where I want to go at all. Could be, right? Or once you have the next encounter, maybe the energy doesn't feel right. Or before we commit something for the really long term, maybe let's do a small project first without getting too entangled. And then from there, we take the next step. Because when we have this detachment, right, where we don't need it to happen, just like in relationships, if it's meant to be, it's gonna come about anyways. And it's happening in the most gentle ways. And the more we have the courage to take it slow, if it's really meant, the universe will put it in front of you, like on your plate again and again. So at some point we gotta eat it, right? And like, okay, I'm in. But anytime, it's just a gentle shift in energy, right? Where you're more, like you're saying, in this pushy, forcey, I need to make it happen. It's already repellent energy. And maybe all the universe wants you to realize, hey, can you just trust? Right? It's like, if this is meant, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be easy peasy. There's nothing you have to force. And that's where the responding comes in so beautifully. So really the responding for the projector, for all of us, it's about trusting. It's about surrendering and letting life show you where you're supposed to go versus what the mind thinks you should make happen.
Right? I talk about that a lot. Like sometimes clients are saying to me, I believe in manifestation and I feel like this is what I should be doing because this keeps showing up. And I have been saying to my clients, wait, hold on. Just because it keeps showing up doesn't necessarily mean it's a yes for you. However, it is an opportunity for you to check in and see if it's still a yes. Is it still a yes? Right? Just because you say I keep seeing it, so that must mean that's the indication. It's like, no, that's the opportunity for you to say, for you to allow yourself to respond and go, oh yeah, it's still a yes. And then, like you said, if it's still a yes after, whatever that feels right for you, then you've got to eat, because otherwise then,
It's
move
true.
on.
There's a difference between, because once we focus on something or even think about something, we can see it everywhere. Like just when we buy a new car, all of a sudden we see the car everywhere. It doesn't mean we have to buy the car 10 times, right? And you have a point, because you may see it everywhere, but if it doesn't feel right in your body, that doesn't mean it's right for you. But if it feels right in your body, right, if you have that sacral response, or I'd even like to call it more like your body response, then that's a yes for you. And all the next steps, the universe will always put it in front of you. It's like, we just have to take the next step. That's our job. But we are not here. So that's the biggest teaching of human design. The mind is not here to figure things out. Right? The mind is here to, like you and I, we're talking, we're bouncing off ideas, we're communicating. That works together with our throat chakra, right? But the mind is not here to make decisions. It's more to ask questions, to be curious, to be inquisitive and all of that, not to make decisions. And that's really the big essence or wisdom of human design for all of us. And I have found, as much as I love human design, and I continue to love human design, and I think I just talk about it in a very different way, at least people tell me this all the time, that I have seen a lot of people use human design in not so beneficial ways, let me put it this way, where there is this kind of hierarchy coming up. Oh, this type is better than the other one, especially with, you have probably heard this sometimes, that the projectors are here to guide everybody else and the generators are the workhorse for everybody. And I'm like, all right, guys, this is actually doing the exact opposite of what this is about, because any of this is help us realize we are one. We're here to support each other, but not to divide us or to create hierarchy in any way or form. Because also, that's when you dive deeper into the gene keys. There's actually one particular gene key, the 50, where the shadow is hierarchy, you know? And I feel that a lot of what human design brought into the world actually is a lot of the shadow frequency, you know? And when we get to learn that it's actually very simple, there's no better than the other, or there's no profile that is better than the other, or any type. But when we can see the beauty and unique essence of every human being in the individuality, you know, that's really what it's all about. And also, if I have a manifesting generator, right, and 33 of the populations are manifesting generators, about-ish, that's some billions of people. You think they're all the same? No.
Yeah.
Just like also you into astrology, right? You may have somebody that has all Pisces energy, you know, and then you have another person that is all go-getter, fiercey, Mars, Aries, all that kind of stuff energy, right? So, and then you may say, oh, well, that's more like a manifester because they have that from the astrology blueprint as well. So we have to look at the whole picture.
The whole picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's part of because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I
You got
just
me fired
wanted to add on that, yeah, we are all unique, right? And all that human design, astrology, all these amazing tools we have are here for is to validate something that you already know about yourself, but you don't give yourself fully permission to be you, because you have somehow created the story, oh, I shouldn't do this because they said this, or this system is saying this, so this can't be right. You know, any of that, if that comes, that's not serving its purpose. So anytime human design makes you feel like you can't do something, I would discard it. It's always like, use what resonates and leave the rest. That's what I wanted to just finish.
No, I love that. It just like, whew, I felt a surge when you were saying all that, because I do think with all modalities, you know, I think I would say at least 99% of people, and myself included, when we come into something like human design, like you said, what really happens, or if I share this with my clients, one of the very first things they say is, oh my God, like, that was just really affirming. I think that's sort of just like you said, I think it's always sort of like the first top three responses when someone has a human design reading or they start learning about themselves through human design. It's like, oh, wow, you know, or astrology or numerology, whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, I resonate with that. And now it's like, oh, I can fully own it. It's not just, am I like,
yeah,
hyping myself up? Like, no, there's something externally that is validating what I've always felt or known internally. I'm curious, when you talked about like the gene keys, and sort of like the profile of the 2-4 being very much like projector, like, one of the things that I saw in, I think it's the gene keys. You're more of an expert in that than I am, for sure. But one of my, in the Pearl sequence, and it talked about how my shadow was dullness. And when I think about that, and I think about the 2-4 profile, it's like there's that hermit, and then there's like get called out, and then be amongst community. And there's so much in different charts and about community and collaboration. And I was really like for that, because that really feels good to me naturally.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also probably one of the most challenging
The,
things.
the
I'm curious what you
community.
have to say, but I can tell, yeah, like I can tell you what my clients or people who know me say about that, but I'm curious,
Mhm.
like what your thoughts are about that, or have you experienced that? It's like there's a lot of like connection, community, and collaboration. And then when I try to partner with folks to do things sometimes,
Mhm.
it's like we really like each other.
Mhm.
Like where's my work? Where's my work wife, my work husband, sort
Mhm.
of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So is it the 15th gene key? I have to look it up actually because I don't know all the I can actually check it out. Because I have the book here right now. Yeah, it is
Oh,
Donna. It's the 15 because the gift is
oh, okay.
magnetism. Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, it's kind of where we feel like empty within ourselves. So yeah, I'm not gonna go too deep right now in the 15th
Sure.
gene key. But have you read it? Have you listened to the audios and stuff like that? That is usually super, super helpful.
Okay, I'll go there.
Yeah.
No,
So
I've read
like
about it and
here's the
I
book.
understand the words. Okay.
Yeah. So here, this is the blue book. It has several pages about the gene key. And then there's a white book as well. And these are also some audios that Richard read. He talks a little bit more colloquial, like he would talk to a person. It's more understandable in some way, the white book.
Gotcha.
Um, because the gene keys, it takes some time to really grasp the essence, right?
Mm,
But the 15 in general, also from human design, is about the extremes of life. And it's about compassion, where sometimes you have all this routine, right? And you're super structured, and then it's like you're throwing it all out the window, where we have these ebb and flows of life, really. And the
mm.
15th gene key, it's funny you bring this up because I literally the other day I had somebody ask me about it. That's why I have this really vivid in my memory right now. So in
Okay.
the gift frequency of magnetism is when your body, when your actions resonate with the Schumann resonance, which is the natural resonance of Mother Earth, where nothing is forced, nothing is rushed. And we humans, as a collective, we tend to go a little bit faster. There's this rush, this forced energy, and this is why we get out of sync with the natural flow of our life, with the synchronicity. So when you can slow down enough, this is now where the way to respond or the invitation and the responding comes into that, right?
Mhm.
We automatically all calibrate to a little bit slower pace, but which over time actually speeds things up. Because instead of forcing ourselves into the wrong direction, we gently, as we slow down and recalibrate a little bit and respond to the right things with more patience,
Mhm.
we click into the right path. And that's where the universe is like, yay, she's on the path I want her to be. And then the synchronicities show up. There's more effortlessness that supports you. And that's what really brings out this your natural magnetism, where you call more things in as opposed to repel it or push things away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
And I can reflect back and see experiences of
mhm.
one versus the other and the outcomes, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And
Absolutely.
that is the most priceless, always your experiences. Now, what you were just saying with those partnerships, I feel like there's something within you that is craving a more sustainable partnership or a collaboration. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would love it. Like I meet people and I'm like, ooh, right? You
Mm-hmm.
talked about money archetypes. I'm the
Yeah.
connector. I resonate
Yeah.
with that a lot because I meet all these interesting people and I'm like, ooh, you should know so and so, or man, I can see how this could be really great, together.
Mhm.
Um, and again, it'll be like we just click very, very well, but then I don't know. What I've been told though from clients is that they're like, so you built this community and we really like it. but we really just want to hear from you. And in my mind, I'm like, community, I should be building communities so that we can all connect and learn from each other. And they're all like, we just want to hear from you. And I think I start looking like, oh, that's that. Stop trying to like hide and I'll just be part of the thing. And there's a lot of this, you need to step up and just own that you are someone that others look towards. And that has been a challenge. Probably I'm there now, but man, that was probably one of the biggest challenges of my life, was just like literally coming out of the shadows.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, so I mean, maybe it's also important for you to have really clear intentions of what a beautiful collaboration or partnership would look like for you, right? And I don't know how you are, but if you're anything like me, like I get things done. I also, I don't want to say I'm a control freak, but I have standards, you know?
Yes.
And I have found that I can easily end up doing it all and overexerting myself actually for the collaboration or partnership. And that has almost led myself to burnout a few times. So
Yeah.
from that, I have learned that when that is the case, you know, and it's not about the other person, it's really about myself, right? What I allow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the more I have set boundaries with that and no longer accept that kind of energy exchange where I feel like I'm putting so much more energy in than I'm getting out or receiving, I have started to attract much healthier collaborative situations where I actually feel like, oh, wow, this is easy. Like you were saying, I have my work husband or something like this, where it's just like, you know, there's a work ethic that is kind of mutually balanced. And where we really make our lives easier as we individually shine our own genius, right? And because it could also be with the community that it can be ourselves where we feel like you have to give and give and give and give, and then you exert yourself, right? Because maybe that's just the energy we ourselves, because everything always we experience is a reflection of ourselves, right? You know,
I
and
believe that.
I also have a community, and I had a community before, and I feel my community now is so much easier than it was before because I allow myself to let it be easier, right? And I think for a community, I mean, if nobody's participating, it's not a community, right? The community is here for people to connect, to nurture, and also engage people to speak their own truth. I mean, we're here to learn from each other, right? And share our individual experiences. And yeah, you can guide that space, you know, but if it's just for you, they want to hear what you have to say, well, then subscribe to my paid version of my podcast or something like that, right? I would say, because you can't do that, right? You have a podcast and you can create like VIP episodes and charge a monthly fee for that.
Absolutely.
You know, if they just want to listen and you're just doing the input, then at least from my opinion, then it would not be a community space, right?
Yeah, I'm always sort of like baffled. I'm like, I've seen how you and you and you, if y'all would just talk to each other, I could see so much magic. But there, you know, everyone's sort of like, I won't say everyone. I have had some communities and groups, you know, of folks, and it turns out lovely. But again, I think to the point of what we've talked about, the ones where I was like, I'm gonna make sure that so-and-so knows so-and-so and meet someone because I think or I feel or I can see, that's where it was less fruitful. Versus, you know, where I just, like I said, just lean back and let things flow.
Yeah. And maybe take that as an opportunity for your future community to really tune into, like, how do you want to communicate that? Target it towards the people that engage, target it towards the people that want to actually participate and enrich the community, right? And they want to have some more of a gentle leadership where you can allow yourself to withdraw and not be constantly active there, right? To actually invite them to step into their own authority in some way, if that resonates, right? But really, like, be clear who is this for? Who is this not for? Right? And like, you just want somebody to tell you what to do. I'm not the right person for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Even in my one-on-one coaching, I'm like, I'm not here to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I'm here to hear what you want to do and help you bring that to be, you know, in the most harmonious way possible. But I'm done with that whole season. I think collectively, like even as a coach, I just was like, oh my God, I'm so over everyone. All you have to do is follow my
5
follow
steps.
my framework, follow my 3 steps, and it's like I can follow, or my people can follow, or your people can follow your 3 steps, 5 steps all day long to a T, and they're not going to have the exact outcome as you because they're just not you. So
It's so insane,
how about
right?
it's I'm so glad that the coaching industry, amongst other industries, I don't want to just, you know, put spotlight on us, but I'm glad that the coaching industry is starting to get a little more balanced and a little more filtered because it was just run amok for a while there.
Yeah, I know. I fell for that many times in the beginning. The 5-step process, the secret formula, the one thing I'm gonna reveal in my really expensive program. And then it's like, okay, well, but that doesn't even feel right to me. Yeah.
No, that was the one thing for you. That was the one thing for you, based on who you were designed to be and how you are designed to move. But I don't have that same as you, and it's okay.
Yeah. And I think here, what I have noticed, even I start to incorporate this more in my communication, that I always invite people, like, for example, right now, like, I freaking love the true sidereal astrology and human design. It resonates to me like nothing ever has resonated before, right? Like, so profound. But please don't make that create a belief for you that it has to resonate for you as well. This is just my Annalena experience. You may not like it at all. Like, I think we really need to invite people to be more discerning and take everything with a grain of salt. Like, there's no one truth. There is your truth, there's my truth, there's your way, there's my way. Yeah, we can share our experience with each other to inspire, but never to make you think, oh, because she did it this way, I have to do it this way. It's almost like be a rebel and do it exactly not the way people tell you to do. Just freaking trust yourself. Because I mean, that's really what human design is all about. Just trust yourself. That's really the big message, people.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the real thing. Like, how do you just learn to that's why I'm such a proponent of like self-mastery. If you don't know who you are and how you're designed to be, I mean, you don't have to study human design. You don't have to study astrology. You don't have, but can you have moments where you're quiet, where you have been in touch with yourself, where you have a deep relationship with yourself and spirit, so you know yourself enough so that you can be discerning.
Yeah.
And it's not our fault. We have not been taught that. We have not been raised for several generations like that. So it's not a fault. It's just, you know.
Yeah. And I think especially in today's day and age, because there's so much noise, right? People are constantly telling you what to do. I think we just need to get out in the woods, have a little bit more silence so we can actually listen to what's going on inside of you and wants to come out, right? Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
So, Sonja, since we talked a lot about the human design, all these things, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself, the work you do with your clients. You also have a podcast. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the work I do with my clients is really, it's really a lot of what we talked about here. It's helping helping people get in touch with who they are, remembering who they are, because I think that we all know who we are. We just have been, taught to disregard that, look for the external guidance and validation to know who you are. And it's like, how do you come back to self? How do you learn how to be discerning? Whether you're using tools like human design or looking into your astrology chart or numerology, I love all the modalities, and that includes studying religion. I mean, I can meet people where they are, because I think that's really important in order to get people to the next step or the next level for themselves, is meeting people where they are, you know? And so if I have a superpower, if I look at what is my magic, it's the ability, it's a gift and a curse, like most things, right? There's anything out of balance is an issue, but I have the ability to see so many perspectives. When someone comes to me and says, this is what I'm dealing with right now, and I don't know why, I can almost I can see that. I can't visualize my own stuff, but when other people are sharing, I can see all sorts of scenarios. And it's not about if you can do a thing, it's how. So, whether my clients are coming to me and they have professional goals, personal goals, they want to become more spiritually connected, they want to start a business, they want to invite or, really expand in their relationships, it's like, great. And even if you don't know what you want, I get a lot of people who are, I don't know what I want. I just know that there's something more. I almost feel like those are almost my favorite kind of people to work with, because they're more in a space where they're willing to just try things and experiment. Where sometimes when we think we know, or we're like, no, it's this, and then I work with my clients and it's like 3 months later, 6 months later, it's like, oh, Sonja, that's so funny. Remember when I came to you about this? And it was really all of this other stuff. And I had a young lady that came to me and was wanting to transition from therapy, being a therapist, into starting a coaching program. And so she wanted to work on some mindset things with that. And then 3 months into it, she's going through a divorce. It's a whole thing. And that was really why we were meant to connect, and so just having the ability to facilitate that type of transformation with folks is what really just turns me on. It makes me feel in purpose. And I know that that's, one of the things that I'm here to do. And the way that I do that is generally through one-on-one coaching. I do offer group programs like memberships and in-person events. So that connector piece, that I love being in person. And so I do like to host those a couple times a year, but those primarily how I work with clients, one-on-one, membership courses, or in person, very intimate in-person events.
I love it. I love especially what you said about the people that don't know what they want. I was like that. And I'm still, because who am I to know what I want? Isn't that the ego anyways? Because one thing that I have learned is more about me surrendering to what life wants to channel through me, so that I'm allowing that, and I still have free will, obviously, but that's why most manifestation teachings for me were always like, I had to force myself to figure out what I want. And I have realized that what I want comes effortless from my heart at some point, but not when I'm trying to figure it out. Sometimes it's just like, oh, this is what I want. This is what feels right, right? But it's not this like, oh, write down your goals and how much money you need to make and what you need to in 5 months. And I'm, oh my God, it creates so much pressure, so much constriction, takes out the joy of everything. And with this more leaning back approach, which again, that's all what human design is about, right? Like, lean back, let it come to you, let life show you, and then you respond one step at a time. That's more this like conscious manifestation where we surrender into our path without knowing from our ego what that should look like. Because I think and that's another thing I've talked about before, like, when I know what I want from my mind, is always based on what we know from the past. these goals that have already been done. And that is, I think, in quantum physics, a millionth of a percent or something like that, what we know. The field of the unknown is the pure potentiality of 99.9999% we haven't even tapped into. Now, I'm not going to tap into this from knowing what I want based on what I know from the past, what is possible. Because I want to, and this is also what human design is actually here. When you follow your body, like your emotional authority with a sacral response for the ManiGen, for example, because where your body takes you is not what your mind is thinking about. It's like, it may be scary, actually, it may get you really uncomfortable because it takes you into new territory. So it takes a lot of courage to trust your body because it's against the norm. It's against what society is telling you should do. Right?
Yeah. I always say like the mind is like a computer. So your soul, your spirit, your body is telling you, is giving you the direction. You need to make a decision from that place, from body, from spirit, from soul.
Yeah.
Once you make the decision, now bring the brain into the equation by saying, help me figure out how to do it. Because the brain is there to figure it. It's really good. It's like the brain is like AI, the original AI, right? It's the original. It's like, tell me what you decided to do, and now I can help you figure out how to get there. But don't put the brain in charge of figuring out what we're going to do. Because like you said, the brain is like, oh, well, all I know is we did this. So that seems, let's go with that again.
Yeah.
And you never get to the unexplored things, the untapped things, because the brain is like, I don't know about that, fight or flight, you know, and then here we go, stress, anxiety, procrastination, you know.
I love that. I love that. Wonderful. Well, we could talk forever. I think there's so much goodness to talk about. But I wanted to, so you also have a podcast. So tell us a little bit about that. It's called The Art of Self-Mastery, right?
Well, it is right now. And I love that name. Obviously, apparently we love, you know, the art of, but I'm actually going to be changing the name of it to Harmony, Not Hustle. Because that really just encompasses like my values in terms of what I believe about every aspect of our lives. And on my podcast, I talk about all aspects of like, I don't believe in balance. I'll just be honest. This is why I use the word harmony. I think life and all of our experiences are going to be waves. They're going to be ebbs and flows. They're going to be seasons. There's no, I mean, you can have balance. I'll speak for myself. I can recall having moments of balance, like maybe once or twice a year, where it was like, ooh, I ate well, I worked out, I looked great, the house was clean, you know, my husband's satisfied, the kids are good. Like that happened, like you have a day like that once or twice a year. The rest of the time, so now what? So it's like, well, how can you fulfill all of your responsibilities? How can you go to work? How can you run your business? How can you be a parent, a spouse, or whatever, you know, and still nurture your relationships, the things that matter to you, and your own well-being? How can you do all of these things a little bit every day so that you're not like this or that? How can we have it more and not or, and not or? So yeah, I talk about all those kinds of things, whether it's health, wealth, you know, spiritual, whatever spirit leads me to, actually. And I find that those are usually like my most popular episodes, you know, again, going against what, oh, well, this will really be great for your podcast.
Yeah.
I did an episode on spiritual signs that you're going the right way. One of my most popular podcast episodes, you know, and it has nothing to do directly with my business, and yet does.
I love it. And it's so aligned with the ManiGen energy, right? You have the permission to change your mind, change the name of your podcast, you evolve, and your audience will grow and evolve with you. So I love that. So thank you so much, Sonja. This was beautiful. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, what is like one nugget of wisdom that was really life-changing for yourself that you want to leave the listeners with?
Oh my gosh, just one. Oh, I would say, what I mentioned earlier, learning how to, learning who you are and how you get the results that you want based on your experiences. Not what someone has told you would be the way, not what you see other people do, but really allowing yourself the space to just play with that. Because I think once you know who you are, then everything else becomes such a much easier decision. I think your experiences can be as graceful as possible when you know who you are. You know how you can take care of yourself. You know how you can respond to things. You know how you can create boundaries for yourself and others. You know how you can, enjoy all the things. But until you get into a solid place with that, because we are always changing. So you're never done knowing who you are. But I think when you can get to just your core parts, it just makes the rest of your life experience as graceful as it can possibly be.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. So thank you again, Sonja. It was such a beautiful conversation, so inspiring. And you listeners, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for your curiosity. And I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. I did a lot. And as always, I'm very excited to be with you all on the next episode.